Your website is obviously the front door and window to show off the wonderful holidays that you can provide, as well as your cottages. And website optimization is basically a process of using tools and maybe even advanced strategies and experimenting to improve the performance of your website with the hopes of obviously further driving more traffic to your website and thus increase bookings and grow your revenue. One of the first steps we believe is that understanding your audience is key to attracting more direct bookings, because ideally you're looking for a match between what you have to sell and the type of guest who would like to come and stay with you. You want to inspire that guest and sell your destination. We always recommend start off with some really basic research and determine what your typical guest profile is. So maybe, is it families? Is it empty nesters? Is it maybe couples? Or maybe have friends and groups? Or maybe it's as simple as what your property can actually accommodate. Now, where can you find this sort of information? The first step I would always check is your online reviews. So maybe you've got upfront reviews. You can see that the typical guests that stay with you in terms of and who leave good reviews. Maybe they're your better match. Maybe you have the good old-fashioned visitors book where they write in it and leave notes and comments. The last option would be to chat with your current guests and find out why they actually chose you. It's also important that you identify your unique selling points. This is looking at things like what facilities or amenities do you have? And I would also suggest going beyond the obvious. Maybe it's something you have like an EV charger or an enclosed garden for pets. But what are these things that you have that make you stand out from the crowd? Are you near something that is very key? What about your local area appeals to your guests? Maybe you're near a beach or a famous landmark or national park, etc. Focus on that. Or maybe it's your service or you're booking extra add-ons that make your service the differentiator. So by combining engaging experiences, maybe you're offering your guests an experience that they'll remember fondly. Maybe it's something like a guest hamper or an on-site yoga class. So very simply, having this knowledge of your market means that it will be much easier to plan your web content and therefore target them accordingly. So for self-caterers, staying ahead obviously means not just understanding the trends in the holiday rental market as in like seasons, but it's also recognizing the importance of position your properties to meet the evolving guest expectations, because obviously these trends are what are redefining traveler preference at the moment. And we as self-caterers need to adapt our marketing strategies to stay relevant. You may have already seen, but we had a recent blog that shared the recent top trends that are shaping our holiday rental landscape this year and what they would mean for your property. Just a couple of things that we've researched and found out is that increased spending on travel and the rise of exploration. So there's been a surge in spending in the UK travel sector, obviously presenting a unique opportunity, especially for self-caterers, to market their properties as the perfect base for adventure and discovery. There's been a trend in terms of rest and recuperation, where there's this new travel mantra that travelers are increasingly looking for properties that offer a chance to disconnect and recuperate. If you have got a property that offers serene, maybe more wellness focused experiences, these are in high demand. The next thing is coolcationing. Properties or places that allow them to escape the heat. So those properties in cooler climate or offering respite from the heat are seeing an increased interest. And so maybe this may be a pivot to your marketing that you could actually use to attract your audience. We've also seen that Expedia's Unpack 24 report revealed that about 60% of holiday makers are expected to seek what they call destination dupes, those affordable alternatives to popular destination or popular tourist spots. So this obviously would open the door for lesser known destinations, basically to attract visitors, but looking for that budget-friendly experience. There's also this what we call tour tourism, where people are traveling for concerts and events. The travelers are really increasingly willing to travel for concerts and events, and especially if those ticket prices in those areas or different cities are slightly lower. So that would obviously cause a boom for properties that are located near event venues or possibly cities that are hosting popular events, ideal for you to use within your marketing. The other two that we mentioned is with regards to amenities. Vrbo basically has identified a trend where 42% of travelers are booking holiday homes that don't have what they have at home. So it would be those extra things like a hot tub or a cozy indoor fireplace. It highlights the importance of you underscoring the luxury and unique features of your property when doing your marketing efforts. And then the other thing is outdoor amenities, bringing the inside out. What's happening is that Vrbo is suggesting that properties with compelling outdoor amenities are in high demand. So be it whether it's elaborate gardens, outdoor kitchens, sports facilities. So showcase these sorts of features could potentially boost your property appeal. Let's talk about website optimization and the importance of what we call search engine optimization. Now, search engines obviously have revolutionized the way consumers discover information online. We all very simply turn to Google when we need anything, any product or service or suggestions, etc. So if you don't optimize your website and the content, doesn't matter how people search for terms relevant to your business, the site won't show up in the results. You need to make sure that your website and business is optimized in order to ensure that you're available, you're on the map. Yes, we'll search for basically relevant terms. Your website and business will hopefully always come at the forefront in terms of search terms if you get to grips with the search engine optimization. Because what it does is it generates targeted website traffic. And this obviously would then lead to more leads, build awareness, and obviously hopefully increase your number of bookings. So what exactly is search engine optimization? It's very simply a set of processes that are aimed at basically improving the volume of traffic to a website, and that's from search engines. And this is by enhancing what is within the content and the performance of your website. The idea is that you create a website that will basically rank highly in organic results that are generated by your search engines. So this ranking is really important because this is what improves your traffic volume directly, because it means that your company's website would be easier to find in search results, and so increase the number of bookings, etc. So I'm just going to spend time highlighting a few of the ways you could actually boost your website's ranking. But in order for me to explain some of these, I thought it would be useful to understand how web crawlers work. But basically, you can actually visualize Google kind of like a librarian. And they go and they analyze the content of a website and then go and provide a guide to the information contained within them. So this sort of content that they look up are subject terms, your headings, the specific content, the themes. And what happens is that if you have an index website, it means it's enabled to be able to find easily. And what happens is that every search engine, be it like Google, Mozilla, Firefox, Edge, etc., they each have their own branded what we call a web crawler, which is or maybe it's termed a robot or spider. And its job is basically to scrape the data from web pages. And for example, Google have Googlebot. And what they do is that they scrape it for your website for information on it. And basically, you need to make sure that your website is satisfying Googlebot. So how can you do this? Now, a couple of ways that you can do this is first by looking at your robots.txt file. Now, this is very simply a text file that's placed in your root directory of your website, and it's one of the first things that Googlebot will look for when crawling a site. So it's really important to make sure that you submit your and include a link to your sitemap within your website. Now, this may be something you're already aware of, already doing, but always make sure that this is up to date. The next thing I want to recommend is that you look at your sitemap.xml. What happens is that in simple terms, an XML sitemap is a list of your website's various URLs. It's kind of like a roadmap to tell the search engines what content is available and how to reach it. So it's really a key method for what Googlebot uses to find on your web pages, and is really an important part of your ranking. So we really do suggest you submit your sitemap.xml file to Google Search Console, because this will increase your chances that your website will actually be crawled, indexed, and therefore possibly ranked, and therefore appear in searches more often. Obviously, when you're going ahead and creating the site map, hopefully when you analyze it, you will actually be able to identify what we call your broken and redirect loops. Obviously, by replacing any of your broken links and your redirect links with the original link means that Googlebot will not have to take so long, and the crawl through your website won't be as slow, and therefore your ranking would be much better. Your search engine optimization keywords are basically the keywords and phrases in your web content that your website uses and what brings you up within search engines. So you need to know what these keywords are in order to understand where you would get most of your traffic from. So it's really important that you understand and use what we call keyword themes in your content nowadays. It's not just one particular word that you're looking for themes. So for instance, if your guests find your website by, for example, searching for wedding venue Yorkshire, then you must, of course, include the wording wedding venue Yorkshire in your page title, your heading, and your content. But you don't want to fill your page with repeated mentions of it. Rather, you want to talk around this theme of this keyword. And that would be things like, maybe you'd be talking about stately homes, marquees, local caterers, photographers, all of those kinds of keywords and people who would play a part in your theme so that you can get redirects to your website through those. So tips on how to find the best keywords. Best idea is to research on Google itself. There are handy keyword research tools like Google Keyword Planner. It's a good free tool that's out there. The other option is to check out your competitors. Always handy to know what they're doing. There are also industry reports and Google Trends that you can look up. But as mentioned, I chatted about the blog earlier in terms of trends and news and PR and media. They will tell you what is forefront of people's minds. To know your target audience and your keywords, you need to then go and create relevant content for your site, because obviously content is the #1 ranking factor for any website. It should be more in-depth and obviously interesting, your content, and the more detail you include, the more Google actually likes you and the higher you rank. So some of the tips that I wanted to chat to you about were to look at your headlines. Your headlines should be catchy and engaging, and they should focus on your guest needs, but you should also still be concise. Your content should lead with your unique selling points, i.e. what do you offer and what makes your property so attractive. I would always make sure that you back this up with things like reviews or testimonials from previous guests to reassure your guests or the browsers that you're trustworthy. So maybe you already use upfront reviews feature, so make sure that you've incorporated the upfront review widget on your website, for example. Then in terms of your content, I'd make sure that you write with your keyword themes and keywords in mind, but avoid thin content. Don't just create a page stuffed with keywords. It must be content that has obviously got real value to your guests in order to be deserving of Googlebot, for example. I'd always check your spelling and grammar. Then the other thing is to avoid duplicate content. Duplicate content basically is referring to content that is similar or identical, is found in more than one URL. Search engines don't like to waste time searching around the same pages and where it will find the same information again. So what happens is that Google or the search bots will punish you for this, and they push you down in terms of the rank. Watch out for it. It's not all as obvious as it sounds. For example, you may think you only have your content on one page of your site, but Google reads all these as different URLs, and therefore duplicate content would need to be flagged. So there are a couple of tools that you can use to determine what they are. And the first one is to take your website and add in a forward stroke and index to see all of the relevant links that come up based on it. Also, just an important note is that when you're writing, why not link to relevant internal pages within your website or to external websites, and make sure that when you use links that you use keywords rather than the text like click here, for example, rather use words that would encourage them to do it. So always include external sites as well, and hopefully get them to link back to you. If you produce really good content that somebody else would want to share, that would mean that you can get higher rankings as well, because the number of people visiting you would be higher, even if it's by reference of maybe you advertise your photographer, or maybe you advertise your unique selling points, maybe it's your local area, for example. And if they link back to you, that will also increase the traffic that reaches you. So I chatted a lot about creating good and useful content. The next thing I want to chat about is your title and what we call your meta description. So you'll see that if you go onto a web page and you type in, for example, Google search, you will retrieve is, first of all, the website address, and underneath this will be a meta title. So that would be the name of your company, for example. And then below that, you'll have a meta description. And so what's interesting is that these have what we call HTML tags, or elements that actually provide your search engine's summary of what the web page is about. And this is what also provides the initial cue to the subject matter. So this is where you're going to create like a pitch to convince the user that this page is exactly what they're looking for. So really having well-optimized titles and meta descriptions can obviously help drive clicks and getting traffic to your website and booking directly with you. It also therefore leads to higher ranking. So your goal with these tags is to optimize these. The way you do that is to utilize the words that you use within your keyword research. I'd also include it in things like your image alt attributes. So that's the information on your photos, for example, and other aspects within your website. When writing with your keywords, again, just to highlight, it's important to find a balance. You need to use your terms consistently, but also write in a way that really reads naturally to your audience. Right, so I've chatted more about the textual content. Let's now chat about how to communicate visually. Obviously, content, and it doesn't necessarily just mean text. What happens is that images and videos really provide rich content for visitors to your site, and they often are the key influences on whether a guest will actually decide to book with you. So would suggest that you invest in decent pictures for your website. If possible, if it's affordable, invest in a photographer, maybe one that specializes in taking photos of accommodation, or are skilled maybe of taking photos of interiors, for example. We'd always suggest that you have an array of photos that portray not only the interior, but as well as the exterior of your properties. Because before a guest books, they want reassurance that maybe all the rooms in your properties are as nice as your leading photo. So show them a photo of every room, your reception area, for example. They also want to see photos of outside as well. So make sure you include pictures of the surrounding views, the garden, the terrace, for example, if you have one. And I would also say that it's also good practice to update all your photos to reflect the different seasons and events throughout the year. So have summer photos, winter photos, etc., so that they can know what to expect dependent on the season. Now, make sure that you book your photo shoot at the ideal time of the year when lighting is at its best. So, for example, I would always suggest May for those green imagery outdoor photos, whereas September to October is really the best time of year for doing those interior light photos, because that's when lighting is at its best indoors here within the UK, for example. Why not think about actually investing in those unique types of photography? Maybe something like nighttime photography. I've seen a number of websites that are doing that lately. Or why not even look at aerial or drone footage? Because, for example, everyone likes to mention that they're situated in perhaps like an idyllic countryside, whereas an aerial photo will actually provide content to your location. It shows that you're surrounded by a farm, for example. If you're promoting family stays, or maybe you're pet friendly, and this is what resonates with your typical guest profile, ensure that you include photos, for example, with dogs, or photos with families, or at least children in it, for example, because this means that it would make your property relatable. And then obviously this reinforces authenticity and thus give guests the confidence to go ahead and book with you. I've chatted about getting professional photography, but is also a good place for maybe the less professional photographs. These can be included in things like blogs or top tip articles, and these can in turn draw new traffic to your website. So these would be things that you could then also link to your various social medias. Maybe you have a blog article on your website where you're featuring your local area and what to do in and about, for example. These can have those less authentic photos. This again is redirecting to another website, and you can ask them to link back to you, and so can increase the traffic as well. And remember to always share on your various social media feeds, be it like Facebook, Instagram feeds. These always provide alternative marketing avenues. It's also good to use the same photos on all of your listings, be it on social media. Also, I would use the same photos that you use on your website, also on Airbnb, Booking.com, those various channels. Why? Because it makes your property recognizable. So say, for example, if somebody's found you on Airbnb, maybe they can use the picture to find your direct website and book with you directly, for example. And hopefully this would be a way of you drawing more traffic. Now, obviously, when you're going to be uploading files, you need to make sure that they're not too small, not too large either, so they don't affect the page load time, because obviously a page that loads slowly can negatively impact your website's rankings. So if you do need a good free imaging editor with tools which can help you to compress and to make your photos smaller, there's things out there like Pixlr. In terms of videos, the same sort of rules apply. Always make sure that your videos are worthy and they're well shot. They can obviously still be homemade because mobile phones have really decent video facilities. And then what I do is just upload your video to YouTube, for example, and then embed it in your website. So you do still have options in terms of different media types. Just one point to bear in mind is that obviously search engines can't see images or videos. For this reason, it's important to include a text description of images and videos. And this is what the search engines will actually be able to pick up. So for images, this is done in your alt tag. And what happens is that you can provide a description of the picture, and remember to use those keywords where appropriate. Whereas for videos, for example, within YouTube, they allow you to upload a transcript, or if you prefer, you can add a description of the video content. So those are the things that you're going to be searched upon. So don't forget to include those. Right. The next thing I always wanted to chat about is the need to evolve. It's really a good idea to think of your website as a work in progress, because search engines are always evolving and changing how they create their rankings. So therefore, by association, your website should do the same. Now, it might seem like a lot of work, but just doing these couple of tweaks that I've just chatted about before, these can be achieved in a very small time period. And what I would do is really put the effort into doing it maybe once a year, for example. So always keep your content up to date, and where possible, if you can even create new relevant content regularly. Those would be things like maybe you need to create a new blog article that would be interesting to share with your guests and hopefully get more traffic to your website. And this means more potential guests, and this would equal more bookings. Another thing that I want to remind you of is that you need to optimize for the mobile experience. It's no longer good enough just to have a website that looks and works great on laptops and desktop computers. Very simply, to succeed in the online marketplace, you need to focus on your site's mobile experience. And that's because half of Google searches are now actually being conducted from mobile devices. So really, can you afford not to be mobile friendly? In fact, Google has adapted its formula to rank those that are mobile friendly higher. So how can you do this? There's a simple tool to make sure that you're mobile friendly. I would recommend that you run a basic mobile usability test. For example, Google has a mobile friendly test. You can use this to correct any glaring issues that the test turns up. I'd also suggest that you test all your pages on the most popular phone models, but to make sure that your website adapts appropriately to each screen size. Now, you can also do this within the device toolbar. For example, in Chrome, they've got developer tools that you can utilize, and this will allow you to see your website in different size screen windows or browser stack, for example. And the idea behind it is that you want your mobile users to have an easy time on your site. So the things that you're going to be looking at is to make sure that the text is easy to read, all the content is visible, it's not out of the screen, and your scaled down images and graphics are still legible. You can still actually read what is within them or see them clearly. Just to let you know that our SuperControl's latest calendar and booking cards are fully mobile optimized. So these should change according to whatever the device type is that your guests are using. So make sure that you're using our latest calendars and booking cards. The last thing I wanted to chat about specifically on this page was improving your page speed. We've all time limited these days. We don't have time to sit around and wait while a site loads up. In fact, if you just have a 5-second load time lead, it leads to almost a 40% bounce rate. Making sure that your website loads fast is the first part of creating a good user experience. Page speed is also an official Google ranking factor, and so it can impact your SEO. To find out how fast your site is and maybe any potential bottleneck, you can use the free tools like there's Pingdom Website Speed Test or Google's Page Speed Insights. Those are just 2 free tools that you can utilize for examples. Throughout, I've mentioned that understanding your audience is key to attracting more direct bookings. We also have Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is a tool where you can monitor the performance of your website traffic. It allows you to get data on a couple of things. It gives you information on who's browsing, so you can get a clearer picture of who's actually interested in your properties. And then if you understand the demographic makeup of your visitors, maybe be it the age, their location, their interests, you can tailor your marketing efforts and property descriptions more effectively because of it. You can see which parts of your websites are important to your visitors. Are they captivated specifically at your property images? Do they maybe spend time reading your guest reviews? These sorts of insights can give you more information on where you need to refine your website for maximum impact. You can also look at the conversion paths using Google Analytics. Why? Because you can see what pathways are actually leading to more bookings. So which page specifically or which call to action button on your page is most effective. And by optimizing these pathways, you can hopefully drive more direct bookings with ease. We have invested considerable resources into developing a GA4 integration with the latest version of our booking cart. And this ensures that SuperControl users can easily harness the full effect of Google Analytics 4, allowing even more in-depth insights into customer behavior and trends. Now, understanding and navigating analytic tools like Google Analytics can initially really appear daunting. So to make this easier, we've partnered with Affinity, and we've produced a guidebook which is specifically for SuperControl users. And this you can access on our help center today. And hopefully this will help you in terms of if you decide to start with the Google Analytics journey.